Welcome. Welcome to Life-Giving Leaders. These conversations go live every Wednesday at 12 Eastern and 9 a.m. Pacific. Why? Because we want life-giving leadership to be a reality in every work environment. I can recall work environments and experiences with leadership that I have had to recover from and heal from. And I can recall some that have given me life and have really put me on a growth trajectory and really just helped me get to know what I can bring to the table because somebody saw the potential in me from their life-giving leadership. I can also recall in my own leadership experience uh, being a leader that has been extremely life-giving, and then in some moments not so life-giving, and wishing that I had a resource like this to help me be the kind of leader that I want to be. And so these conversations go live every week so that we can help you as leaders in your respective spheres of influence give life to your teams, your organizations, and your industries. Today, we are talking about humility. Humility is your leadership superpower. And humility is something that is often misunderstood. And because it is misunderstood, there are actually very unproductive ways that attempts at humility can show up. Well, today we're going to talk about what is humility really? What does it look like? Why does it matter in leadership? And what does it look like in action? Now, I want to just say we're not speaking as those who have mastered all things humility and have nothing more to learn. No, while we've certainly learned some things along the way and we're here to share them with you, we're obviously still on our leadership journey and on our humility journey as well. So let's talk about it, man. What is it with this humility thing? Let's start by talking about what is humility, what isn't humility. First of all, humility is not putting yourself down. Humility is not downplaying the value that you bring to the table. It's not pretending that you are less than you actually are. That is not humility. That is not the spirit of humility. In fact, it's a very self-focused, self-centered kind of thinking, which is in fact the opposite of the spirit of humility. Humility is not also, it's not having a lack of joy or enthusiasm. So if you bring some fire to the table, that doesn't mean you're not being humble per se. And so sometimes people, you picture humility is you got to be sad, you got to have a low countenance, you got to be calm, and you got to just kind of downplay, pretend you bring nothing to the table. That is not the spirit of humility. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Let's talk about what humility is. Humility is quite simple. It is simply a heart attitude that optimizes for the benefit of others. I'm going to say that again. Humility is a heart attitude that optimizes for the benefit of others. So it's not about me. I'm not the main topic in this conversation when I'm operating in a spirit of humility. In fact, when I walk in humility, I actually should need to walk in great confidence. I cannot fully give expression to humility without having confidence. Why? Because if the humility is about me benefiting you or benefiting others, I have to have confidence in the value that I bring to the table to know that it will be of benefit for your sake. So humility is for other people's sake. Sometimes that shows up where we make personal sacrifices for the betterment of others. Sometimes it means we make decisions that are not optimized for our personal well-being, but for the well-being of others. But a lot of times it actually shows up in the form of making decisions that are really good for you so that you can be really good for others, right? Because you cannot sustain benefit to others if you are not taking proper care of yourself. So let's have a little bit of dialogue on this. And, one of my favorite quotes that I just want to highlight, I don't know who said it, but it's that humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. What are you thinking about humility, Dana?
I'm actually thinking about how it plays into sales. And I was actually, that quote was in my mind when I was thinking about how it plays into sales. Because when you're selling to someone, if you're thinking about what benefits them, if you're thinking
Right.
about how am I going to improve this person's life, if you're thinking, what do I have that can make this person's life or business thrive? You're thinking about them. You're not thinking about the bottom line. You're thinking about the person you're talking to and how can I really benefit this person's life? And is it me or is it even somebody else, another company, another colleague? Like, do we have a match here? Do we have what it takes to bless this person on the other side to make them, to solve their problem? As opposed to, I need to close this sale, I need to make this quota, I need to, I have actually found that I have been far more successful in closing sales when I'm thinking about the benefit of the other person. And so it's become the way that I function as opposed to the bottom line. And it actually does drive you to meet those goals or even exceed them when you're thinking about yourself less and think about what you're trying to do for yourself and think about the client more. So that's actually what I was thinking in terms of this humility
I love
conversation.
that. I remember an experience where, because my background is in revenue operations, so I've led some sales teams and I've supported some sales teams in some pretty high growth technology companies. I remember one experience in a particular company where we had a pretty dismal quarter. Almost all of our sales reps did somewhere between 40 and 60% of quota, but there was one salesperson that did like 180% of quota or somewhere in that order of magnitude. So obviously they stood out. And when I was having a conversation with this person, I'm like, what's your secret? His answer was so simple. He says, Mike, it's actually really simple. People ask me this question all the time, and I tell them my secret is I just love on my customers. I'm not even focused on the number. I'm focused on what's best for them. And so while we're not focused on the bottom line, our bottom line or our top line as well tend to do better as a byproduct. Why? Because it is the byproduct and not the goal itself. My heart posture is I'm here to make sure you get the greatest benefit possible.
Yeah, I discovered that actually at the very beginning of my sales journey many decades ago. And I remember I right at the beginning, and I was quite stressed about meeting quota and closing, and it was, the end of the week, and I hadn't, I'm always setting metrics for myself. So in order to reach the quarterly goal, I have to do this today, I have to do this week, I have to do this month. So it's the end of the week, and those numbers that I had set for myself for the week in order to get the larger goal were nowhere to be seen. And I just had this shift of what if I just take my focus completely off of that, and just really my goal is to enhance the life of the person on the other line. If I close the sale or not, if whatever it is. And I think that was in the last half of that like final day. It was either Thursday or Friday in the week. And I remember that day making more progress and closing more sales than I had in the entire week. And that was when I decided this is the way to go. And it's not just in sales, it's in life. It's this aspect of like thinking, not thinking less of yourself, but thinking less of thinking of yourself less. Because if you are thinking about the other person, you're not going to stop showing up. You're going to show up. You're going to bring everything you have to the table. And that's going to be a benefit to the other person, because what you have to the table, what you have to bring to the table is what that person needs, what the world needs. But if you're thinking less of yourself, you're actually going to hold that back. And it's a very selfish act, even though we tend to think of it the other way around.
Absolutely. And that aspect of holding yourself back, I think about one thing that Dr. Ed Silvoso has shared around, suppose you're on a plane and and you're flying and there's a pilot and the plane is about to go down. You don't want the pilot to say, oh, who am I to try to be the one to step in and save the day? Who's little of it? No, it's not time for that false humility. It's time to bring what you got to the table, because people need you to step up. And a lot of times it shows up in leadership is when we as leaders are feeling our insecurity, feeling our areas of vulnerability.
Yeah, this is good.
In the sales example, for example, maybe you really need to level up your financial situation. Maybe you're in a desperate situation and you need to close that sale. The discipline of it is, it's not about me meeting my personal need, even though I have a personal need. It's about me serving this. I got to get in that headspace. I'm here to serve you, because if I can get in that headspace, I have a higher likelihood of success. And I'm not going to try to do unnatural things to force the situation. From a leadership standpoint, what does humility tactically look like? How does humility show up when I'm leading team members? What are examples of where an unhumble approach can show up versus a humble approach, and the impact that that can have on a team? I think about how you take credit and responsibility for things that the team has done, for example. Or if something goes wrong, I own it as a leader just as much as every team member. Now, there may be a coaching opportunity afterwards. That's fine. We'll offer that opportunity to coach. But when I'm in front of others, am I making my team members look good? Am I lifting them up? Or am I trying to use them to make myself look good? And I think that's a bit of the mindset thing, is sometimes we think of my team members are here to make me look good. And I say, no, I am here to elevate the team members, to give them experiences to grow and shine, and to help them to make a contribution that really comes to the table.
Well, and I think of the journey that we've gone on and that we take and we're going on and that we take our clients through. And there is really this aspect of kindness when you're being kind to yourself, when you're not thinking of yourself less, you're kind to others. When you see yourself and your identity and your giftings, and you see yourself in that proper way, it opens up your eyes to see others in that way and to treat others. I think one of the most successful success-making thought processes I think that I've ever had is just the choice to not see someone for, especially if you're in a tough situation with someone you're leading, for what they are doing today, but to see them for who they are and to treat them as who they are, even on their worst day. And that actually causes that to come forward in them. And it also helps you as a leader just directionally, like, okay, what are the ways that I can lead this person to success? Because you have a target. You can see what that success for that person looks like.
There's this other aspect of humility as a leadership that I've seen can be a struggle sometimes, which is, as a leader, you want your team members to respect you. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Dana, which is like, so then what about this aspect of like, to what extent is it okay for a leader to show their weaknesses, to apologize, to admit when they were wrong, and all these things? Like, is that a risk that people are going to lose respect for you if you kind of show your weaknesses and vulnerabilities?
Honestly, that's so people want authenticity. And they want realness. And we've talked before about, like, even as a leader, if you're trying to bring a solution to a problem and you pretend that you don't see the problem or the way that the problem is affecting your team, many team members with certain designs will automatically dismiss you in that scenario because they don't feel like you're actually understanding what's happening. Therefore, they don't think you're credible or capable of bringing a solution if you can't see what the problem actually is. I'm not saying there's not a balance. There absolutely is a balance. And I think we're all learning to walk it every single day. So, and I think that line is very different. It's not it's not an objective line. I think there's some subjectivity given scenarios, given closeness, given, are these people you're walking with, how close to you are they on the org chart? Like there's a lot of nuance involved here. One thing that I've seen that has been huge in terms of humility, building people that will follow you, is when you actually, and this might sound like a divergence, but it's not, when you actually know your own boundaries, and that's part of knowing yourself, and humility is knowing yourself and knowing what you bring to the table, and you honor them, and then treating the people that you're leading the same, making sure you know their boundaries and honor them. And that's part of design. I found that causes people to want to follow you to the ends of the
But
earth
wait a
as
minute,
a
hold on
leader.
though. But I'm the leader. They're supposed to honor me. You mean I also have to honor them?
Of course. And
Of course.
and especially with and one way people will see and know that is your curiosity around their boundaries and their core values, and then actually honoring them, like not just getting the information, not just having them do the workshop as a team or do the test, or but then actually considering it in the way that you build them up as a leader.
I want to highlight two things that you said. I wrote these words down when you said them because they just, kind of hit me so profoundly. Kindness and authenticity. Humility is kindness. It shows up as kindness and it shows up as authenticity. I mean, people can see through if we're unauthentic. People will see through it, and if you want to lose trust quickly, try to show up in a way that's not authentic. I can think of a couple of examples. I had one situation where a leader that I respected came to me for advice, and we started to riff on some ideas. And I made a suggestion, and he loved the suggestion, and he immediately implemented the suggestion. And then the next day, or a couple of days later, we were in a large group meeting, and he says, I came up with this idea. And then he delivered the idea that I had suggested to him.
Oh
No,
my, every wife in the room knows that this is a common occurrence.
I'm not even going to pretend. If I'm going to deny that, then I would be unauthentic. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. And I remember just thinking, oh, that wasn't exactly really motivational for me. Now, who cares if I got the credit or not? But I did take a mental note and say, okay, noted. This is somebody that you can expect that they may want to take the credit, at least based on that one example that they could. But
so let me actually. So this is a common occurrence actually with, and I don't know why, but this is a common occurrence with across the board with the females that I know. And I don't actually think that it's because the other person or is trying to take credit for something that that they did not come up with.
okay,
I actually think it comes, people
believe it,
come by it honestly, like they've been thinking something through, and maybe you've been saying it, and in terms of my other lady friends, sometimes we feel like we've been saying something for months or trying to get something across for months, and then the other person has an aha moment, and they really did have their own aha moment that they own. It's not that they're trying to steal your shine, or it's not that they're like, oh, I like that, I'm going to take that. It's not that. It's actually that they've come to themselves. And yeah, I mean, for all of us, it takes us sometimes to come to some realizations, and that can have to do with even a lot of the neuroscience things that we teach, and defining your next clarity and confidence. For a lot of times it's a journey, right? So you can hear something and not hear it, and then one day you hear it, and once you hear it, it's real to you and it's yours. And so I think even giving people the benefit of the doubt and not thinking they have ill intention. I'm not saying no one ever has ill intention, but I think more often than not, it's often said that we judge people by their actions, but we judge ourselves by our intentions. And if we kind of like looked at their intentions, and a lot of times they're not as sinister as we imagine.
You're setting me free, Dana. You're setting me free. No, for real. Even as you're talking, I'm thinking about that situation. I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe they weren't trying to steal my limelight. Maybe they genuinely felt that it was an aha for them, and they felt it was their idea. And that's probably the best way to have someone go and implement something, is for them to feel like it's theirs. So Yeah, no, I needed to hear that. So thank you. Thank you for highlighting that.
Mhm.
Um, there's another example I can think of. One of the areas where, one of the times where my respect skyrocketed for a leader was when I heard them stand up in front of an audience and say, "Hey, I used to think this, now I think this. Because I used to think this, I led you this way, but now I see there's a better way, and I apologize for that." And for a leader to come up and actually like be that vulnerable and that transparent, they took the risk of losing respect, but I think what it actually did was it rapidly amplified respect. And I think that's really important, to not try to look like a perfect leader, to not try to look like the leader that knows it all and then tries to mask when you have gaps or maybe areas that you're kind of learning along the way. Because if you think about, a leader is really intended to raise up other leaders. A leader who's not raising up other leaders is never really fulfilling the essence of leadership.
Mhm.
Leaders beget leaders. And the best way to help somebody on a journey is to meet them where they are
Right.
and then walk with them to the next step in their growth or in their maturity. And if I'm not willing to share my areas of vulnerability, how can I meet them where they are? A
Mhm.
leader is great, not when I look at the leader and say, wow, they're great.
Mhm.
A leader is great when I look at the leader and say, I can be great. Why? Because I see myself in their story, and that gives me hope and that gives me confidence. And then they help me along the way based on their learning. So that humility is such a foundational element of leadership.
Right. And I'm genuinely thinking just about even the journey that we take people through in the defining your next chapter with clarity and confidence, and the journey of like knowing yourself, knowing your true north, knowing what are the rhythms, what builds and drains your joy, so that you show up as your best self, and the neurological pieces of removing limiting beliefs and all these things. And I just feel the more we are whole people, the more we can implement define those changes in our
Mm,
teams, define those changes in our team members. And as the more we're doing anything for ourselves, is the more we're capable of doing it for someone else. Even think of money. If somebody needs to borrow money from you, no matter how much you want to lend them money, if you don't have the money, you cannot lend it to them,
perfect.
right? But if you have it in abundance because you're taking care of that area of your life, you're able to extend it to
Really
others.
good. Yeah, really good example. Again, just building on what you said about knowing yourself well, and knowing ourselves entails both knowing who we are and who we're not, right? Knowing
Absolutely.
where I'm naturally gifted, where I'm naturally strong, and also knowing where no matter how much I invest in myself, I may never become higher than a 3 or 4 out of 10 in that particular area because it's just not natural for me. And in those areas where I'm just not naturally that strong, I want to surround myself with team members who are strong in those areas. And I actually want to be explicit and say, I'm not strong in this area. I want to lean on your natural gifting in this area. So, for example, for myself, sometimes I'm very detail oriented, but for the most part, I'm a bit of a big picture thinker. I'm a creative thinker. And as a result, a lot of times I miss details that to most people should be really, really obvious. For example, if I have to put something in my calendar, I'm not depending on my memory. I will put it in that moment because if I don't, I'm definitely going to double book myself again. And so I surround myself with people and I actually say to them, hey, please tell me if I'm missing it. Don't just let me miss it. Tell me if there's something that I'm missing. Don't assume I know. Call it out, even if it seems obvious, and actually just ask for that area of help.
Right. And it's interesting because it's so interesting because what Mike's talking about can seem like a gap. And I guess in a way it is a gap, but the reality is the way his brain works, it's so building frameworks and entire systems. And so it's actually an outcome of his brilliance that there's this other area. But part of it is that we're just built to need people. Like we're built for community. We're built that everyone has a different superpower to bring to the table, and we need each other's superpowers. And they're so different that sometimes if someone functions other than us and they're exactly what we need, we can look at them and go, why do they function like that? That's so wrong because it's so different from us and we don't understand it. When in reality, it's exactly what we need. That's exactly the person that would help us go to the next level. And so it's good to know who you are in great definition, because then know who you're not, because then you can see, it actually helps you see who other people are better.
There it is. Yeah.
It actually helps you see, well, that person actually functions that way because it's a strength of this other thing that I'm missing, as opposed to coming and judging them because you don't understand,
So
not because you want to judge.
I want to give a point of caution here for folks listening to this conversation. I'm going to restate the definition of humility as we've stated it here, and give the caution. Humility is a heart attitude that optimizes for the benefit of others. And the reason why I want to emphasize that is because the caution is, remember that humility is a heart attitude. So if you're taking from this conversation humility tactics, Mike and Dana said I should apologize as a leader. Let me find something to apologize and let me practice my apology and then let me go and deliver. Like, okay, fine, you should practice, you should be intentional, all of that. But it starts with a heart attitude. If my heart is postured, this is for their sake. This is about their benefit. I'm asking myself, as I make a decision, how does this benefit the bigger picture, not just how does this benefit me? If I'm thinking from that perspective, that's my posture, then the tactics will flow naturally. I can still be intentional about them, of course, but they'll flow naturally. So just remember that humility is really about a heart attitude, not so much about do the checklist of these 5 humble things and your team will like you.
Yeah, and it's a journey that we're all on together. Yeah. And we would actually love for you, we would love to join you on that journey. We would love to have you come on in and do defining your next chapter with clarity and confidence with us. Even if you reach out today and you say you were on this live stream, I'll even put a 12% discount on your, as long as we can close
for the benefit of others.
Because I appreciate that you're here, and I just the self journey is so important in the being able to give to others, and that's really impressed upon me as we talk right now.
Okay, well, this program, Defining Your Next Chapter with Clarity and Confidence, just to highlight it, there are a lot of folks right now that have been feeling this sense that something in my life needs to change, but I haven't quite discerned what it is. Maybe you're considering a job change. Maybe you've been laid off and you're considering, what does my next chapter look like? But if you're asking yourself this question, what does my next chapter look like? And you don't have confidence in your answer, this is what this program is for, defining your next chapter with clarity and confidence. And the way that you reach out is you can simply email us at info@hanastrategy.com or go to our website and go to Let's Chat, hanastrategy.com, Let's Chat. We can look into both defining your next chapter defining your next chapter with clarity and confidence. Don't say that 10 times fast. As well as if you're looking for some leadership development in your organization. We have leadership frameworks all the way from first-time people leaders all the way through to senior executives. And we'd love to have an exploratory conversation with you.
Yeah, we love working with you, and we really love working with your organizations and your teams. We just have a blast together. It's
absolutely. Well, we're now going to go into the members only conversation for folks who are active HANA Strategy clients. We're going to enter the room now. And so you're already in the Zoom room, folks. You know who you are. And we're now going to unpack this conversation and really have a really cool discussion around what does this look like in application in your respective spheres of influence. So we will see you next Wednesday.
And any of you that are watching on YouTube that are clients, you can jump into the Zoom room now. And any of you that are watching that would like to join that conversation, we would love to have you. It's a very simple. Do you want to just explain?
Oh yeah, you can become members even if you haven't purchased any HANA Strategy products. You can purchase a 6-month membership, which gives you access to the members only discussion every Wednesday for an additional half hour. Simply go to hanastrategy.com/leaders and you can purchase it there.
So 6 months for $500.
That's kind of ridiculous.
crazy.
And that's 500 Canadian. So
Anyways,
yeah,
bless you guys. Have an
Awesome.
amazing day.
take care.